of Manicourt. Louise Goodman and Ted Kravitz will keep you in touch with events behind the scenes. Your race commentators on ITV1 are Martin Brundle and James Allen.
Thank you very much, Jim. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to a very sunny and hot Manicourt, right smack in the middle of rural France. Track temperature at the moment, 43 degrees, by far the hottest it's been all weekend. The weekend started with rain on Friday, but cloudy and overcast yesterday for qualifying. Strong breeze as well down the main straight. Today, as you can see, only the lightest of breezes, not a cloud in the sky, and very, very hot track temperature. Could that be significant this afternoon? Certainly a strong possibility. Well, last year at this point we had six different winners in the season, but right now only Jarno Trulli up to this point has broken Michael Schumacher's stranglehold on victory. Will we be adding another name this afternoon? Ferrari certainly think this will be one of their hardest races of the year to win, and certainly the Michelin tyres of their rivals do seem to have a slight edge here, as they did in Monte Carlo when Trulli got that win. As I say, the temperature's going up all the time, which would tend to play into the Michelin runners' hands. There is Fernando Alonso. Will it be his name that we add to the list of winners for this season? Starting from his first pole of the season in the Renault, on home soil for them, a lot riding on it. They've got 6,000 Renault employees here today to cheer them on. Yeah, certainly Alonso's had a lot of back luck lately. Maybe able to turn that around today. There's Schumacher chasing another magnificent 7 after his 7 victories in Canadian Grand Prix. He's had 6 here in France. Will he make it 7 today? Or could it possibly be David Coulthard starting from 3rd place, McLaren's best grid slot of the season? And they have the new car here for the first time this weekend. It's made an immediate impression. So halfway through the 2004 season, this is where McLaren's year really begins. Martin, for the first time, Coulthard and his great friend Jenson Button starting alongside each other on the second row of the grid. You can see it right there. As Button was just saying to Louise, the last time they raced against each other they crashed, but Button tells me they've never started alongside each other. But just talking to Button, certainly last night, he said he reckoned this is his best chance of a Grand Prix victory this season.
Yes, let's hope they're not ex-friends after 3 corners this afternoon. I think they've both got a good shot at getting past Michael Schumacher before or into the Adelaide hairpin at the far end of the back straight. They'll be very keen to get away. Normally we have seen the Michelin tired cars getting a little bit better traction after they've all cooled down on the green flag lap to the grid formation itself. A lot of good stories to watch out for, though. You've got Raikkonen down in 9th, really, I think, out of position. Janae just ahead of him in 8th. He's really got a lot to prove in that Williams if he wants a seat for next year. Barrichello also way out of position down there in P10 in the 2nd Ferrari. You've got to expect them to come through the field at some point, but it's going to be pretty scruffy, I think, in the top 6 or 8 as they head on that first lap.
Yeah, just bring you up to speed then. Marc Gené, who Martin was just talking about, substituting for Ralf Schumacher. Those of you just joining us, he's broken 2 vertebrae in his back, and he's going to miss quite a few races. Certainly 12 weeks is what the doctors are saying at the moment. His manager Willy Weber is saying that he expects Ralf to be back in a car at the Belgian Grand Prix. He said that this morning apparently, but a lot of people doubt that quite a bit. And Weber also saying that there could be an announcement at Silverstone regarding Ralf's plans for next year, and that presumably means his Toyota contract being announced at Silverstone. So no Ralf Schumacher here this weekend. Marc Gené, who's done 34 Grand Prix in his career and over 8,000 miles of testing in the FW26 Williams, so knows the car like the back of his hand, stood in at quite short notice here, as he did at Monza last year, and well, he was a little bit cautious in qualifying, but nevertheless he's in the field as the engines are fired up.
Yes, Michael Schumacher with his hand in the air and index finger up, saying, okay, I've done everything my end, switched on all the necessary buttons and software packages. Over to you to twist the engine at the back through the gearbox and wind it all up.
Not always the most simple thing, as we found out in Indianapolis, where poor old Juan Montoya found his car wouldn't start, the lance wouldn't go in the back, and that said about a catalogue of things which culminated in him being disqualified for not getting off the grid quick enough. That moment of focus, as always, for Michael Schumacher. We've really enjoyed meeting the team with Ferrari this weekend. Tremendous access, and that wonderful interview Jim did with Michael Schumacher there, very revealing about the inner workings of his mind. But now he's got only Fernando Alonso to think about as they set off on their parade lap around this 2.7-mile Manicourt circuit, as smooth as a billiard table, but hotter than Georgia asphalt today.
Do you remember when Michael Schumacher bolted from 2nd place on the grid and passed Damon Hill at Silverstone, and later took a penalty for it for being out of position on the warm-up lap. He's now necessarily had to let Alonso back through again. They are really allowed to get away as they need to.
Can I just tell you about a little cameo I saw at the end of Saturday morning free practice? They were doing their practice starts at the end of the pit lane. Michael Schumacher was lined up and he was getting alongside, and Alonso came down, parked himself in Schumacher's mirror vision. He could see him on his right, and when Michael dropped the clutch to go, Alonso reacted to that and, using the Renault Superior system, was alongside and passing Schumacher on the way down. It was only free practice, it was just a practice start, but it was Alonso taking the fight to Schumacher, saying, look what I've got, mate, and if we're next to each other on the grid, I'll be using this on you in the race. It was an amazing piece of aggression against the world champion, who likes to do that kind of thing to the younger guys.
Yes, the outside king goes on, whether it's in the press conferences, in the paddock, in the press the week before, and it's good that Alonso's up to speed on all of that. Michael Schumacher locking a right front, trying to build some brake temperature. Remember, that's exactly what he did in the tunnel in Monaco before Montoya managed to run into the side of him as they got mixed up in the slight darkness of the Monaco tunnel. But it's so easy, especially at low speed, when you haven't got the aerodynamic downforce pressing the contact patch onto the road. The brakes are so powerful, they will just snatch front and rear in these conditions.
The grid very close for this afternoon's Grand Prix. Takuma Sato down in 7th place, just half a second away from pole position, and a 10th separating P2 and P5 on the grid. So the lap times so far have been very, very closely matched. That tyre situation I mentioned before, just levelling the playing field a little bit this weekend. And for me, there's any one of about 4 or 5 men could win this afternoon's Grand Prix.
I agree with you. I still think, as Jim said at the top of the programme, Michael's still got to be the favourite, of course. They've got to stop him winning this Grand Prix, but I feel they've got the tyres and car underneath them to do that, some of these drivers. Alonso in particular, the Renaults have been fast. Michael with the traction control switched off so he can spin those rear wheels as much as possible. And he's got to remember to put it back on again.
Yeah, they rely on it pretty heavily. Just watching out on the track during free practice. Amazing how much traction control that Ferrari uses.
Very slow green light or green flag lap. There are the Renault fans neatly installed on the start-finish line near the Renault cars, but very slow. And that's exactly what a Michelin runner needs to do on pole position, which of course Alonso is, to give him a better chance of beating Michael Schumacher into turn 1. Alonso on the racing line. In fact, he's just slightly left of the racing line. The curious way they go down the pit straight.
Keep an eye on Trulli in the second Renault as well. Both Renaults start well. Let's go racing at Magny-Cours in France. One of the Saubers takes a jink. Look at Button coming through. They're Trulli alongside Button. Looks like he's going to pass him on the inside. Everyone looks like they got safely away. It's Alonso, Michael Schumacher, then Trulli up to 3rd place. Button down into 4th. Montoya up there in the mix as well. Where is David Coulthard in all of this? He's behind Jenson Button. So not a great start for Coulthard or Button. And as I say, watch out for Trulli, and he's gone and lived up to expectations.
Both Renaults away very, very well then, as you say. Truly again, a Button remaining 4th. Coulthard dropping down to 5th. Montoya 6th. Raikkonen straight up to P7 then already. Sato Barrichello 9th. Genet 10th. A poor start from the Williams end of Genet. Webber 11th. D'Amata 12th.
Yes, it's always very interesting to see the drivers that slide back at the start. Marc Genet dropping 2 places, as Martin says. Obviously, it's been a while since he's done a Formula One start. It does all tend to happen pretty quick around you, but no question about who the leader is. It's Fernando Alonso, who won from pole position in Hungary last season. On that occasion, he was trying to beat Michael Schumacher, who had all kinds of problems on the day and wasn't able to fight him. And look, they're already dropping Trulli in 3rd place. Coulthard and Button look like they're getting stuck into each other for 4th.
And the reason that happened is because Button had a go at Trulli on the exit of the Imola chicane into Chateau d'Eau and held himself up and gave Coulthard a run at him. He's now been held up with that overtaking attempt. Meanwhile, Trulli and Michael Schumacher, Michael Schumacher comfortably out front. Here we go for a replay. Watch Coulthard away slowly, just going underneath your picture now. And in the background, nobody getting into each other on the line. Everybody away except, look, a Toyota there, Panis, very slow away, and he is 20th in the field of the 20 runners.
Yep, home Grand Prix, oldest man in the field and the only Frenchman, and that's not the start he wanted on home soil. Alonso leads then. Michael Schumacher is in second place, just 8/10 of a second behind. Trulli a couple of seconds behind his team leader in third place. Button is fourth, Coulthard fifth, sixth Juan Montoya, seventh Kimi Raikkonen, 8th Takuma Sato and 9th Rubens Barrichello, with Mark Webber up to 10th, having started 12th on the grid in the Jaguar. Marc Genet down to 11th.
Now I think behind, Trulli's just got to settle down now, otherwise he's going to lose these front two, and he's shaking off Button by about 6/10 of a second. But if he wants to play, I think, up at the front, he now needs to establish himself back somewhere within spitting distance of Michael Schumacher. The front runners are expecting to make 3 scheduled stops this afternoon.
Yeah, we're expecting the first ones to come in around about lap 12, 13 possibly. Some of them have a little bit more fuel. They might go to 17 or 18. Certainly lap 18 to 20 last year was when we saw most of the first stops, but everyone's being a bit more aggressive this year. Just look at the advantage. Trulli on the right-hand side there. Now alongside Button, up into third place he goes. What an advantage that start system of the Renault is. Here we are on board with Trulli.
Well, it means they can afford to run more fuel during qualifying, knowing they're going to take a couple of rows, or 1 row at least, and sometimes 2 before they get down to the first corner. Remember, Trulli it was, wasn't it, at the Spanish Grand Prix, had an amazing start from 5th on the grid to be having a look at the lead. Alonso then, fastest man on the track last time around by a fraction from Michael Schumacher. His lead, 1.2 seconds. He knows how to stay in the lead of a Grand Prix though, doesn't he? We've seen him very calm in the head before now.
Certainly seems very calm. Let's see what it looks like on board with Michael Schumacher coming down the hill then. Of course, the revised final corner sequence here in Magny-Cours used to be really an amazing corner, the Lycée. Now they've straightened it out and put this rather aggressive chicane in with curbs which have caught drivers out this weekend. Giancarlo Fisichella in the Sauber found his suspension breaking as he attacked those curbs a little bit too viciously. Across the line then to complete the third lap. Michael Schumacher is the fastest man on the course at the moment. His last lap, a 1:16.3, and this is quite a pace, Martin, they're going at.
It's an amazing pace. The lap records are 15.5. Of course, they still have a lot of fuel on board, and it is hot. This is a track that gives up a lot of grip with temperature. We've seen it over the years. Luckily, it works the other way around as well, but it really is a circuit, of course, with Parc Fermé conditions, a lot less track time than they're used to because of the rain so far this weekend. A lot of these cars will not be in optimum setup, optimum conditions, James, so the drivers will be trying to do anything they can inside the car with differential programs, and then also talking to the crew if they want to have some front wing changes at their first pit stop.
Well, the French TV director enjoying the moment of a French car, Renault leading the French Grand Prix. Behind all of this was a tremendous scrap for 6th, 7th and 8th places between Montoya in the Williams, Raikkonen in the McLaren and Takuma Sato in the VAR. Those three absolutely together on the racetrack, and also Rubens Barrichello joining in that scrap as well, so hopefully we'll see about that. I wonder whether Montoya is actually holding them up. No, he's not. His pace is pretty strong. He's lapping in the low 1:17s. The leader's lapping in the low 1:16s, and that's a pass there between Heidfeld, it looks like, and Panis going around the outside.
Yeah, that'll be down at Adelaide. Hairpin. Panis will have had a good run down the straight, tried to go around the outside, didn't make it stick, so he remains in 18th. He's passed the 2 Minardis, but he's 18th and trying to pass 17th place man Heidfeld. Alonso's lead now up to 1.4 seconds. That's looking handy.
Yeah, took a couple of tenths of a second that lap out of Michael Schumacher. Here we are riding on board with the world champion. This is what it feels like to drive a 900 horsepower Ferrari around Magny-Cours. Let's listen to it. Oh well, let's not. That's one heck of a chicane, that one. The Imola chicane, the second fast chicane on the lap, taken at over 130 miles an hour. And honestly, if you get down there is a grandstand on the outside. If you fancy coming down to the French Grand Prix sometime, I would recommend you to sit there because the view is quite extraordinary as the cars change direction through there. So working lap 5, Alonso leading Michael Schumacher, looking pretty composed at the front. Trulli 3rd, Button 4th, Coulthard 5th, and Montoya at the moment in 6th. Welcome back to Magny-Cours in France, the first course in a double header of sport here today on ITV1. Coming up tonight at 7 o'clock, we've got the Euro 2004 soccer finals. The hosts, Portugal, who knocked England out of the competition against Greece, joined Des Lynam and the gang to watch that 7 o'clock tonight on ITV1. What an atmosphere that will be. Here at Magny-Cours, we've got a good atmosphere as well. Lots of people, 65,000 crowd here, watching a French car driven by a Spaniard, a Renault driven by Fernando Alonso, leading the French Grand Prix on lap 8 from Michael Schumacher, the reigning world champion, bidding to become a 7-time French Grand Prix winner. Also looking for his 60th Grand Prix victory in the Ferrari team, which will be quite a milestone. They're at the front, lapping about a second a lap faster than Trulli in third, Button in fourth, Coulthard in fifth, and a wonderful scrap for sixth place between Montoya, Raikkonen, Barrichello and Sato. Barrichello has got in front of Sarko. We haven't seen any of it. French directors enjoying looking at Alonso at the moment, but believe me, Barrichello has got ahead of Sato, and he's now into 8th place. Sato down to 9th, and Webber still in 10th place.
Yes, this is brilliant punch and counter punch between Alonso and Michael Schumacher. They're matching each other 10th for 10th until that lap, and Michael's just put in a new fastest 1:15.761. You can see it at the bottom of your screen now. Michael Schumacher much faster through the first sector of each and every lap too. So Alonso beginning to get a little bit untidy on the curbs, James, a touch ragged, and Michael menacingly now sitting there. 16 seconds separate the top 10 at the moment. Webber in the Jaguar is 10th. He's passed Genet too, but these two at the front are in a league of their own.
They really are, aren't they? Trulli lapping high 1:16s. His colleague Alonso low 1:16s. Schumacher low 1:15s. One wonders whether Martin Trulli and Button are carrying slightly more fuel than Alonso and Michael Schumacher. Certainly Button felt last night that he had the most fuel on board of any of the top 4 runners, but I've been told that Trulli and Alonso are doing a similar strategy, in which case it just seems to be Alonso's day. Certainly this is Alonso's stint of the race anyway. He's much faster at the moment than Jarno Trulli, who is now 6 seconds behind the race leader. Look at Michael Schumacher though, getting closer all the time.
Yes, the gap was 1 second at the end of the last lap. We're just coming up to the end of the 9th lap, and it's now down to 0.9 again, just edging another fraction. Michael beginning to put the pressure on. We've seen this so many times this year, James, where 2 or 3 cars have ended up way faster than anybody else. I think it's those that happen to be hooked up under the Parc Fermé situation, where they've got a good car going into qualifying, they then have to live with through qualifying and all Sunday afternoon, and that's why we're seeing a big variation in performances. Certainly early in the Grand Prix, Schumacher now really beginning to look menacing to Alonso. He's done 159 Grand Prix more than Fernando Alonso, and a lot more experience therefore to go with it, of course.
Good stat, very good stat. He's also won 78 of them. What a record Michael Schumacher has. It's rather reminiscent, isn't it, of a couple of years ago. Kimi Raikkonen leading the Grand Prix, Schumacher menacing him. Raikkonen making that very late mistake, if you recall, just a couple of laps from the finish when he hit some oil and went straight on, and Michael Schumacher able to get him. Ross Brawn there, we talked to him as part of our Meet the Team this weekend. He's communicating all the time with Michael Schumacher, and if you were watching that interview, you'll have heard him say that Schumacher is feeding data back to Ross all the time about what the tyres are doing, what the track's doing, what he thinks about how he's going versus Alonso, where the weaknesses of the Renault are, etc. And all the thoughts and ideas and data are all turning over in Ross Brawn's head, and he's formulating the strategy as he goes along.
Well, I did 158 of these races, James, and I wouldn't have wanted anybody talking to me, even Ross Brawn, in the middle of the Imola chicane, which is where Michael was at the time. I really don't know how he copes with that. It's amazing. The gap down to 0.6 of a second then. Alonso leads from Michael Schumacher, Trulli third, Button fourth. Coulthard keeping in touch with Button in fifth. Then Montoya, Raikkonen and Barrichello having a good fight. Sato, Webber is 10th, Genet 11th, D'Amata 12th. Then Klein in the second Jaguar, Massa and Fisichella 14 and 15, very close together, probably on 2 stops. Then it's Pantano, Heidfeld. Panis is still behind Heidfeld in the Jordan. A lot of talk in the paddock. Eddie Jordan has sold the team, a big chunk of the team, to some new partners. So maybe we can look out for an announcement on that in the near future. But that's certainly a very strong rumour in the paddock just before the Grand Prix started.
Yeah, certainly linked with Middle East consortiums over the last few weeks, and well, the Jordan team certainly could do with a bit of a cash injection to boost their competitiveness. The two drivers, Pantano and Heidfeld, pushing hard as Michael Schumacher gets the car slowed down. That's why he was being so aggressive. He's right underneath our commentary position. He comes into his box, inch perfect. They practice this so many times, these teams.
We've got a race, James. That's great news that Michael is in before Alonso, because that obviously meant he was carrying less fuel. Raikkonen's in the McLaren from 8th place. So it's a genuine pace that we're seeing from Fernando Alonso. He was carrying more fuel. I wonder if he'll pit this time. Let's hope not. Then we've got a seriously good fight. Raikkonen departs as De Mata enters the pits. They were almost getting in each other's way. Genet away too.
Yep, Genet substituting for Ralf Schumacher makes his pit stop. There's the Toyota, as you can see. There's your race leader still, Alonso. Trulli is now second. Button is up into third, Coulthard fourth, Montoya fifth. And what's very interesting is that Michael Schumacher has fed back in amongst the Jaguars. Webber was there, Genet, De Mata, Klein, and Michael Schumacher is now behind Mark Webber and in front of Christian Klein in that sort of area, with cars that are certainly a few seconds a lap slower than him. And I have a hunch that those Jags aren't going to stop in all that near future. So he's got some work to do, Schumacher. He's come out into traffic, I think. And once again, Alonso goes through for another lap.
Good news. There'll be a big smile on the face then of the Renault team. Meanwhile, in P7, Barrichello is absolutely flying. Now he's got a bit of space. We think he's coming in the pits this lap, but he's trying to leapfrog his way through Montoya and Raikkonen at a critical stage of the Grand Prix. Coulthard pits too from what is currently 4th place. Ted is down there.
The stop is going well, but David Coulthard did overshoot by just a bit. I believe that Juan Montoya is also making a stop this lap. Actually, no, he's not. And that's a smart move from Williams, because Montoya and Coulthard were very close together on the track. They're giving Montoya one more lap to see what he can do.
And that's Button, who hasn't pitted yet, going through back markers. So critical stage of the Grand Prix then as to who can get their in and out laps sorted out, and good stops. Coulthard rejoins the racetrack, as does Barrichello. I'm sure we're going to see some position changes there. Meanwhile, we have a Renault 1-2.
Yep, and a Jenson Button 3. And as he said, he's carrying a little bit more fuel than the guys up front. He could be sitting in the pound seats. He needs to up his pace a little bit at the moment, though. He's faster than Trulli, who's in second place, and he's just over a second behind Trulli. But the bad news for Jenson is he's now 8 seconds behind Alonso after that opening stint. There you can see the Renault mechanics getting ready. This is a very important time in this Grand Prix, probably for Trulli then, I'd imagine, because Alonso is going through to complete another lap. The Renault guys look like they were just getting themselves set up rather than they wait. No, Trulli right in now. Trulli has come into the pits underneath us, and so that's Trulli out of second place. Button goes up into second then, but he's just over 8 seconds behind Fernando Alonso at the moment.
We've got a serious race on our hands this afternoon. The Ferraris and the key Michelin runners have all got roughly the same pace, just slightly stuttering away there for Montoya, and he's in a critical battle with Barrichello and Raikkonen. We'll see how it unfolds. I'm watching Michael Schumacher doing a 1:16.8, stuck in traffic behind Takuma Sato. As you pointed out, James, that slightly earlier stop for him has put him into traffic and is costing him about a second a lap. Expect Alonso to remain in the lead if he has a clean stop.
Certainly should do. He's managed to pass Mark Webber, has Michael Schumacher, but he's now up behind Takuma Sato and finding it a bit tricky to get past him at the moment. You can see feverish activity down the pit lane. That looks like Pantano and Olivier Panis that were battling towards the back of the field. 16th and 18th places, those two. Is Alonso going to pit this time? Yes, indeed he is. The race leader comes in. Ted, take it away.
This one is going to be seriously close, and it's happening right in front of me. The Renault boys get to work. Fernando is slightly short into the box, but there's no problem connecting the fuel hose. About 45 k's of fuel. Oh, but he's got an obstruction from the BAR. He manages to get out, just avoiding it.
Yes, I think it kind of worked okay. Looked like he slowed down a lot. The Ferrari's just caught my eye going down the pit straight. Alonso will come out in the lead as long as he doesn't cut that white line, which he has not done, it seems to me, from this long shot. There's Schumacher in the background, and Yes, it worked out very nicely indeed for Fernando Alonso. And is that Jenson Button?
That's Sato, you see. He's got Sato between himself and Michael Schumacher. Button has just made a stop. Yep. That is great news for Fernando Alonso, because Michael Schumacher has got to get past Sato before he can even think about attacking Alonso. We believe from our F1 ITV pit crew down there that Sato will be making a stop next lap, which is pretty consistent with Button having just made his first stop of the afternoon. They normally come in a lap apart, and so having made a stop, Alonso leads this Grand Prix. Michael Schumacher is behind Sato in second place, but we're expecting, as I say, Sato to come in. And well, when it all shakes out, we'll see who the winners and losers were from the first round of pit stops. But that fractionally early stop for Ferrari for Michael Schumacher was not the hot ticket on the day.
Jaguar up to 5th and 7th then. They're not yet stopping. Presumably they're going to stretch it out to a 2-stopper. We'll see when they come in. Looking forward to driving that car in Regent Street on Tuesday afternoon. Formula One parade there. Jaguar very kindly invited me to have a go in their car, so that should be good fun. Meanwhile, Sato has pitted then, so that'll release Michael Schumacher. Webber pits in the Jaguar at the same time. All action down there.
Yeah, that's good news for Jarno Trulli, who was behind Mark Webber at the time, so he will resume, I think, in third place. And you can see that Alonso took a long time, half a lap, to get past that Minardi. That will have cost him. He was trying to get him into the first corner, and it took him until halfway around the circuit to make it stick. So that will have lost him a bit of valuable time. Let's see how long it takes Michael Schumacher to get past him. There's another Minardi as well in the way. There is Schumacher, you see. Bruni is now in front of Alonso. It's Baumgartner here coming into the clutches of Michael Schumacher, who's going to encounter him at right in the middle of the fast chicane. He's probably going to have to... Oh, he's got past him already, so... Michael Schumacher very committed here then in the pursuit of Alonso.
So we're waiting to see really then where Barrichello came back out. He's ahead of Raikkonen. Raikkonen's had a poor stop somewhere, James. He's back down in 12th place now, and we've still 2 drivers yet to stop. That's Klein in the second Jaguar, and Massa has not stopped either, nor has actually Fisichella a little bit further down the field. But Raikkonen losing out in those first round of stops.
Well, we're looking at some smoke coming out of the back of a Honda. That's not an unfamiliar sight this season. Poor El Sato lost 3 engines already this year, and that looks like number 4 Honda blow-up of the season for Sato. Why is it always his car? Very, very strange. The Honda engineers have no idea either. It's nothing to do with the way he drives it, they believe. It's just one of those things. But 4 times now in a season, you'd have to say, is more than sheer coincidence.
Yeah, I remember Jenson Button saying in an interview 2-3 races ago on ITV, yes, there was something he was doing differently to me, and they've tried to stop him from doing that, so there's no reason now why his engine should be blowing up. But as you say, James, there's always a reason for everything somewhere along the line, whether it's an installation thing, a driving style, whether it hits it too hard on the out lap, whatever it is, something's happening with Sato's engines that's hopefully not happening with Button's today.
So let's bring you right up to speed with where we are, with 54 of the 70 laps to go here in Magny-Cours. This is lap 17. This is the race leader you're riding on board with, Fernando Alonso. As a result of that first round of pit stop strategy, he has managed to extend his lead over Michael Schumacher to 3.7 seconds. So the traffic which Schumacher came out into, having made the earlier stop, definitely cost Michael Schumacher. And outside my window, Juan Montoya has spun in the final chicane. TV will pick it up. There it is. Montoya was running in 6th place, and you can see he's dropped down. That's Massa, who was 8th, and Raikkonen, who was 9th, going past him. So that's an expensive drop there for Juan Montoya. Alonso leading then by 3.7 from Michael Schumacher. Trulli is 3rd, 8 seconds behind the race leader. Just over a second behind him is Jenson Button. Lap times at the moment consistent once again with Jarno Trulli. Still slower than the front 2, as they were in the first stint, as we take another look at Juan Montoya there, doing something we saw Rubens Barrichello do last year and a number of drivers do.
Yeah, it's not a mistake you'd expect Montoya to make, really, but Luis is telling me he's complaining about his back. He had a big accident in free practice on Friday morning, so maybe he's a little sore and tender in there, but he'll certainly be sore in the head with that critical error. Alonso leads then by 3.7 seconds from Michael Schumacher.
51 laps of the 70-lap French Grand Prix still to go here at Magny-Cours. James Allen and Martin Brundle with you. You're looking at Juan Montoya, who had a spin just a few laps ago, is under a lot of pressure from Mark Webber. Montoya 9th at the moment. Webber is down in 10th place. Alonso still leading then as Raikkonen has a go at Felipe Massa. This is the battle for 7th place. Massa is due to make a stop at some time soon. He's one of the only 2 cars out in the field that's not pitted yet. Not this time then for him. Raikkonen through, up into 7th place then for Kimi Raikkonen, who lost some time in the first round of pit stops. And you can see a terrific scrap developing here in the midfield battle between Raikkonen, Massa and Montoya as the other Sauber of Fisichella comes in 11th place. At the front, though, very intriguing between Alonso and Michael Schumacher. Alonso still 3.5 seconds ahead of Schumacher, with Trulli and Button just over 6 seconds behind them. Ted, what can you tell us?
I've been into Williams, James. Juan Montoya has been complaining about the balance of the car, the handling of the car all race and on both sets of tyres. It's terrible. I can't tell you the language apparently he's been using to describe it, but he doesn't think it's anything wrong that made him spin. They think he just hit the curb too hard.
Okay then, Montoya struggling, and it's clear to see, isn't it, as he's squabbling around in the midfield. He's 9th at the moment with a lot of work to do, and he cannot pass the Sauber of Massa. Meanwhile, it's given Raikkonen a nice bit of free air up the front, and Montoya going in way too deep as well. So a really untidy race from him this afternoon.
Well, Jenson Button sitting in 4th place at the moment. His fellow countryman David Coulthard just behind in 5th. Look at this scrap though, as Massa peels into the pits. Webber is definitely on the pace of this Williams, and his lap times, Webber, have been very consistent, but they've all been held up a little bit in that battle as Massa comes in from 9th.
The trouble is, when you start sliding around, if you've got an understeer problem, for example, the front is sliding, the more it slides, the bigger your problem. It just snowballs up, and then you start locking a brake, as you're about to see Montoya do right now, which further wears and damages the tyre, and after that, it just gets worse and worse till you start screaming for a new set of tyres. But there's no point coming in too early. Your race is over anyway if you're out of synchronisation with the stops.
Exactly. Well, Montoya pitted on lap 13, so he's only had that set of tyres on his car for 8 laps, and certainly I'd expect them to need to go through to around about lap 30 at least. So he's got another 8 or possibly even 10 laps to go before he can have a fresh set of boots. Let's ride on board then with the race leader through the long Estoril corner. That's a Jordan in front we're going to lap in a minute. Revs on the left, 17.8, over 18,000, hitting 195 miles an hour under this bridge. And then hitting the brakes very hard for the Adelaide hairpin. 30 miles an hour, first gear corner. Terrific place to overtake. Looks to me as though Schumacher's a bit closer, Martin.
He is. The gap's down to 2.4 seconds there. Alonso's 9 seconds ahead of his teammate Trulli, but Michael is yo-yoing around between them and gradually now hauling Alonso back in. That time, 7/10 of a second on the previous lap. Don't think he had traffic either, did he, on that lap? So Alonso beginning to struggle.
Yeah, it's interesting because Michael Schumacher is clearly happier with this set of tyres and with the circumstances of his car in this stint. He's lapping comfortably in the mid to low 1:16s, and obviously feels the car is right under him. What kind of things do they do, Martin? Adjust the tyre pressures and that sort of thing based on the information the driver's giving them before they put the tyres on the car at the stop. They can...
Yes, they can measure the first set of tyres, of course, and just see exactly how they came in terms of temperature and pressure particularly, and make some adjustments if they need to. They can put a bit of front wing on if necessary, but I've never seen a car go so fast with so much understeer as that Renault that's in the lead at the moment. And I've said it several times this year, it just looks like an undrivable piece of kit in some of the slow corners as he has to crank on. Let's see, we're on board with him now. He cranks on a load of steering. The front just wants to slide across the road. Wasn't as pronounced there in the Adelaide hairpin as it is in some of the chicanes, but quite clearly gives him brilliant traction and a good overall lap time.
Well, Alonso has passed Pantano. Heidfeld makes way too. He dives up the inside through the 180. On his way, Michael Schumacher getting ever closer. Took 4/10 of a second out of him on that last lap. We're riding on board with Alonso. See how calm he is. Seems to keep it all together.
The other problem he's got is that in qualifying, Michael Schumacher was a full 10 kilometres per hour faster than him through the speed trap on the way into the Adelaide hairpin. So if Michael can stay close to him through Estoril corner, the long double right, then he's got to have a good chance with a slipstream and more straight line speed to get up the inside under braking. That's what the gap is now. It's down at 1.5 seconds. 1.5 then. Michael just relentlessly now closing that gap.
Jean Todt there up on the pit wall, now in charge of the whole Ferrari company, road cars as well as Formula One cars. Tremendous amount of responsibility for him. Michael Schumacher there riding on board with him. Yes, a lot of responsibility for Todd now, and he's handed over certain areas of his job in Formula One to Ross Brawn, the technical director, Stefano Domenicali, the sporting director, has taken on a lot of the managerial roles as well. A lot of people see him as a future successor to Jean Todt, Italian-born, American-educated Stefano Domenicali. And Todd now have to think about what new model road car Ferraris they're going to produce, as well as what new racing Ferraris.
There's a great story about Domenicali, isn't there? He used to be on the security, the gate at Imola, just so wanted to be involved in Formula One. Now he's ended up in a key role with Ferrari. I love stories like that. There's always a chance out there for everybody to find their way.
Well, certainly, in the course of this weekend, we've been with the Ferrari team. We've been very keen to emphasise they have succession plans. They do know that the Dream Team has achieved extraordinary success, but they are all ageing. Drivers and management as well, and they are putting younger people in place to take over. They want to continue this extraordinary run of success that Ferrari have had under Jean Todt. And there you can see Juan Montoya going wide at the Nürburgring chicane. He was not the first man to go up on that green rumble strip there this weekend. Everybody pretty much has been up there. It's where you go when you try and carry a bit too much speed into the Nürburgring. And now look at the margin here. It seems Schumacher is closer than ever.
At least Alonso's not giving a big smoky brake lockups into the corners, but he's still losing half second a lap. Louise is down with the very unfortunate Takuma Sato.
Very unfortunate, once again an engine failure, and once again Takuma just after your stop. Is that significant at all?
It was difficult. It's slightly different because I struggled a little bit right beginning the start, and obviously after the pit stop it was significant power down and the engine didn't last it.
Thanks, Taku.
Well, I'm afraid we're still really only looking at the leader. There's some good fights going on. Truly third, Button just 1.4 behind him now in fourth place. Coulthard still within shouting distance of Button. Barrichello, though, in sixth place, homing in on the back of David Coulthard. Both Ferraris out there very quick at the moment. Raikkonen seventh, Montoya with his untidy race eighth, and Webber ninth, Genet 10th. What's going on out on the racetrack? Michael Schumacher badly held up behind the Toyota.
Yep, came across him in the Lycée corner. We're now almost at the end of the first sector, and he still hasn't been able to get past him. Obviously, he'll get him onto the Adelaide, but there weren't too many opportunities for Panis without backing right out of it to let Schumacher through. So that's cost him a little bit, but it doesn't seem to have cost him too much. It's the first part of the lap where the Ferrari seems to have the edge. The second two sectors where the Renault is stronger, exactly as we saw in qualifying.
Yeah, but Michael was just visibly quicker, wasn't he, though, through into that chicane in terms of turn-in speed. He's got a lot more grip underneath him at the moment. Alonso's going to be a sitting duck anytime soon, unless he can keep leaning on those back markers to help his cause. He's got to find every ounce he can at the moment, because if Michael Schumacher gets ahead and come the next stop, he's got a faster car, hasn't he, at this stage of the Grand Prix. And as you said earlier, James, in the second half of each stint, the Ferrari has been stronger.
I tell you what, you have to take your hats off to the Bridgestone people, because they were getting a lot of criticism this time last year when Williams headed home a dominant 1-2 for a second weekend in a row here. If you recall, in 2003, it was a summer of Michelin success, and Bridgestone went away and they thought, hey, how are we going to make tyres that work well in hot conditions? They've had tyres that have been outstanding everywhere we've been so far this season, and certainly a number of the Michelin guys thinking they had an edge here this weekend going into the Grand Prix. But on race day, even in the hot temperatures, the Bridgestones on that Ferrari look like, at the moment, they are holding on better than the Michelins on the Renault and the other cars.
That's what I was telling you. Michael's obviously quite a bit faster down that back straight in Sector 1, and that's where it's going to happen, if it happens, before the next pit stop. We've got Button closing in on Trulli for third and fourth. Coulthard closing in on Button, now just 4 seconds adrift. Barrichello closing in on the lot of them. A lot of racing going on out there this afternoon, and just like to see a little bit more of it. So a little bit down the road. That's about 15 seconds behind this leading duo.
I tell you, another good scrap to watch out for is Button and Trulli. They've been at it really for most of the race. At the moment, they're just over a second apart in third and fourth places. But Trulli made the earliest pit stop. He stopped on lap 13. Button stopped a lap later on 14, but put a bit more fuel in the car. So we're going to have one of those situations where he's going to try and use that advantage when Trulli makes his stop, to try and leapfrog him when he makes his own second stop. We'll watch out for that coming up a little bit later on in the race. But certainly the BAR at the moment not really able to show the kind of pace that Button believed he had. Certainly he thought he was the fastest car in the race in Indianapolis and thought he would be again here today. Look at the Ferrari closing up, you see, on that straight line speed.
Raikkonen pits from 7th place, the first of the second stops of the afternoon. There you can see it. Fresh tyres going on, about 50 kilograms worth of fuel going in, and away he goes.
Let's tell you a little bit about how that car is different from the car they've been competing in all season, the MP419 that they've put to one side. This is the 19B. It has very different side pods, completely different rear end, new rear suspension as well. The drivers say that it's much kinder to the tyres on the long runs in a race. It's easier to drive, it's more predictable, and certainly in Coulthard's hands, he believes he's able to brake. He's much more confident on the brakes, which was where a lot of his lap time and speed comes from. So certainly a good debut so far for the McLaren. It's 5th in the hands of Coulthard and 7th in Raikkonen's hands, but as you can see, still 42 laps to go as Schumacher makes the earlier stop again.
What a good day for Williams, though. They're down in 8th and 10th at the moment, with Montoya 8th, Genet 10th, and way off the pace it seems. So the changes haven't worked too well for them. They do seem to have some pace in there if they can only find it. This man certainly has got all the pace he needs at the moment, but he just has to keep stopping for fuel before the Spaniard. Coulthard pits too, so both McLarens then have made their second stops. There he is. And the nozzle again, three-quarters of a second slow coming out, but he's away.
Once again, Schumacher's emerged with some traffic to deal with. It's in the form of Panis, Massa, Fisichella in front of him.
Ooh, a little bit wide there for Alonso, just having to edge the car and just keep it gently on line by turning into the slide and really getting, I think, towards the end of the useful life of this set of tyres. Amazing, isn't it? They're good for about 50 or 60 miles. Look, struggling again in Chateau d'Eau. Alonso's ready for a set of tyres, and this is crucial. He needs great laps at the moment, not difficult laps if he's going to maintain the lead. We just know how brilliant Michael Schumacher is at this phase of every Grand Prix. He does not pit.
Yeah, he's just 1.4 ahead of Schumacher then before the German made his stop on the last lap. We'll monitor the margin, probably be a lot closer than that. As you can see, Alonso's car sliding, you see it moving? And look at the graining on the right front, Martin.
Yeah, tyres are not looking nice at all. He's had to push hard in this stint. Button pits from what is currently 3rd place.
So, well, he definitely stopped for longer on his first stop, but that wasn't extra fuel that went in. It must have just been a slightly slow stop for Button. So that theory that he was going to run a little longer, obviously not working out. Trulli's still out on the track. Button has made a second stop, so that will not be happening. Ted, what can you tell us?
Tell you what, at Ferrari, they're delighted that McLaren made the stop when they did, and there was that little hesitation on David Coulthard's nozzle, because this gives Rubens Barrichello a great chance to jump him after his next stop.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on Barrichello's times. It was a 1:16.5, which is pretty handy, if not spectacular, last time around. And again, a bundle of understeer on the way into the corner, the back end stepping out under power. So, and we're hearing that the Renault team are out in the pit lane, and I hope it's with a fresh set of tyres for this man, but it's not. It's for Jarno Trulli as we understeer and jump our way through the final chicane and run down the ragged edge of the pit straight for the tremendously challenging first, second and third corners here on this Manicourt racetrack.
So at the moment, Fernando Alonso leads the Grand Prix. His teammate Jarno Trulli has just come into the pits. He was 12 seconds behind. Also into the pits comes Rubens Barrichello, who was in 3rd place. These two racing for position. Michael Schumacher was 4th, but with those two pitting, he will go straight up into 2nd place. So Barrichello getting out of his way in the nicest possible way by diving into the pits.
New lap record for Michael Schumacher, a 1:15.4, and you've got Alonso doing 1:16.8. That's already enough to negate the lead that he had. So Schumacher absolutely blisteringly fast at this stage. Montoya away after his second stop. Surely Michael Schumacher has got enough now to come out in front of Alonso. Alonso launches the car into the Imola chicane, just throws it at the corner. But he's in at the end of this lap. We're hearing from the F1 ITV pit crew, and you wonder why they didn't bring him in a couple 3 laps ago, James.
You'd have to say that because his lap times have been in the high 1:16s, and Schumacher, with a new fuel load, new tyres, has made it work. As you said, a 1:15.4 his last lap, and that should give him the lead over Alonso as the race leader comes into the pits, and we're expecting Michael Schumacher to come down the hill any time now and take the lead away for the first time in this Grand Prix from Renault. They're going to work as fast as they can, as fast as they can. It's a fantastic stop, but it won't be enough because Schumacher's blasting down the pit straight, and Alonso will see him in a moment. There he goes, disappearing into the first corner. There is Michael Schumacher. He is the new race leader, and well, Alonso stayed out a couple of laps and it didn't work for him. That last lap of Schumacher's a 1:15.3, the fastest lap of the Grand Prix so far. Exactly when he needed it, Schumacher found the speed, and that is why Schumacher is Michael Schumacher, and it's why he's a 6 times world champion.
Yeah, and a new lap record to go with it then, and well, he just pulls it out when he has to, doesn't he? It's just too easy for him. He's just got speed to spare, and he looked a bit ragged in the first sector of the race, and once again he's gone a bit deep into 180, but he's done enough, hasn't he? It's Alonso struggling on the old tyres, grained right front, lacking in traction, and Michael just punished him.
Well, it was 32 laps before the Ferrari hit the front, 32 of the 70. So Renault certainly took the fight to Ferrari here this afternoon. It's certainly not over yet either. We've got 38 laps to go. An awful lot can happen here at Magny-Cours, and who knows, Alonso might love this set of tyres that he's got on at the moment. And we'll find out exactly what the margin is. It looks about 3 or 4 seconds to me, Martin, as they cross the line. Here they go. Yes, it's 3 seconds exactly, Michael Schumacher to Alonso. Then we're waiting to see where Jarno Trulli is in 3rd place, how far behind, as Olivier Panis makes his second stop of the afternoon. Trulli is 15 seconds then behind race leader Michael Schumacher, with Button right on his tail, as he has been throughout the Grand Prix. Barrichello now just 2 seconds behind Jenson Button, with Mark Webber pitting from 6th in the Jaguar, and that promotes Coulthard up to 6th.
Yes, it does. But an important part of what you just said, James, is Barrichello did in fact leapfrog David Coulthard during those second stops, as we predicted. So Michael Schumacher, as we see the Minardi of Baumgartner in the gravel trap. Michael Schumacher leads by 3 seconds from Alonso. Jarno Trulli 3rd, Jenson Button 4th, Barrichello 5th. Webber was 6th, but he just pitted, so up to 6th will come David Coulthard.
halfway stage of the French Grand Prix at Magny-Cours in France. Michael Schumacher may have hit the front, but it's Alonso who's now faster than him on the racetrack. Took a couple of tenths out of him on that last lap. Jarno Trulli is third, with Jenson Button fourth, Rubens Barrichello fifth, and David Coulthard sixth. There is going to be, very shortly, a superb scrap between Trulli, Button and Barrichello. They've been closing up more and more together. They are separated by just over 3 seconds, the three cars, and they're all looking very racy here this afternoon. So a lot can develop there. But Martin, for me, a lot can still develop at the front here, because historically, this season at least, the Bridgestone tyres on the Ferrari do not particularly like being pushed hard in the opening just after they've been changed, a new set of tyres after a pit stop. We saw Michael Schumacher, as you pointed out, doing those stellar quick laps in the low 1 minute 15s. Do you think he might have done some damage to those tyres now, because he doesn't seem to be quite as quick as Alonso at the moment?
No, I used to find here that you had to hurry up and wait with your new tyres because there was so much grip, and you could easily take that grip and enjoy it with 1 or 2 quick laps. You paid a heavier price later on, but we have seen Michael's Bridgestones hanging on pretty well through a stint, better in fact than the Michelins on Alonso's car, but they both hit that fresh grip and used it instantly. It's like they've taken it straight away, and I wonder if they will pay a slightly heavier price for that later on. We'll see. Just 2.6 seconds between them, and Ted is down with Luca Colliani.
Yeah, down here with the Ferrari head communications chief, Luca Colliani. Luca, Alonso made you work for it, but now Michael's used the best of his new tyres, right?
Yeah, I think we are in a decisive moment of the races. The race, Alonso and Michael are fighting very hard. It's a very tough race duel. Also, Rubens is doing very well. He's starting from 10th. He's already in the top 5, and I think he has a good strategy to be in a very good position at the end of the race. It will be a very interesting second part.
What's Ross telling Rubens to really go for that? He thinks second or maybe third is on?
Yeah. I have to say that Ross is pushing Michael very, very hard, because if we have a chance to win, we have to push. That's for sure, because Renault and Alonso are very good.
Thank you, Luca.
They certainly are. That's Luca Colliani then from the Ferrari team. We've been meeting the Ferrari team this weekend here on ITV F1. Very interesting it's been too, and that's a little insight from the Ferrari garage into the way they feel things are going. Ross Brawn clearly then telling Michael Schumacher this race is not won yet, because Renault and Alonso in particular very, very strong. On that last lap, Schumacher seemed to have an edge over Alonso, whose pace dropped off after that initial first strong lap. Let's see what they've both done on this last lap. Almost identical lap times, to within 100th of a second of each other. And this is one heck of a dogfight at Magny-Cours. 3 seconds the margin. Up the road is the Ferrari. There's a little bit of traffic between Alonso and Michael Schumacher, and there's 32 to go.
Yes, Michael, though, is always best part of a third of a second faster down to the Adelaide hairpin than Alonso. That's where he's losing the time. Michael just set a new fastest first sector. Alonso not troubling the apex that time around either. What are we going to see here? The Toyota wombling off on the outside there of Panis. He's having a terrible day. The guy who knows this place like the back of his hand didn't get away from the start line, wasn't particularly quick in qualifying, and now sadly having problems out on the track. I mean, Olivier Panis is normally stunning around here with his time and speed.
Well, I wonder how decisive it was then that the Renault team chose not to bring Alonso in the laps that followed Michael Schumacher's stop, because he was clearly struggling with the last knockings of those Michelin tyres at the time. And Alonso stayed out. The team brought Trulli in before him. And every one of those laps that he did, Martin, he lost ground to Michael Schumacher, who was pushing, who'd made the earlier stop. And you'd have to say, Pat Simmons there on the timing wall is a much cleverer man than I am. I'm sure he's thought it all through, and we'll get an explanation later on. But you'd have to say that at the time, those tyres didn't look too clever. Now, Zolt Baumgartner has just walked in underneath our commentary position. I see he's stopped out. His car has stopped out on the racetrack. He's our second retirement of the afternoon. We saw him a little bit earlier on. Still no idea of exactly what was wrong with that car. This is lap 40, though.
Yes, Baumgartner was in the gravel trap, wasn't he? He looked like he'd gone off. Sato, engine failure, as you say. But Michael stretching that lead now, 4.2 seconds. He made 1.2 on Alonso last time around. Has Alonso punished those tyres too much? Schumacher 25 seconds now ahead of Jarno Trulli. Maybe the new McLaren's flattered to deceive a little bit. We're on lap 40 and they're 31 seconds adrift. So they've not had the race pace that they showed in qualifying.
No, and David Coulthard, who is in 6th place, 3.9 seconds behind 5th place man Rubens Barrichello. Those cars, Trulli, Button, Barrichello, in a sort of train together on the racetrack, and you can't say that Coulthard is being held up by them at all. He's on the same sort of pace as they are. High 1 minute 16s, low 17s. There's Baumgartner, as I mentioned, Hungarian driver, first Hungarian ever to score a Formula One World Championship point at the USA 2 weeks ago. Now finally the French director allows us to see these 3 cars. This is Button who we're riding on board with. Trulli is ahead of us and Barrichello behind, and just 2.5 seconds separating these 3 cars at the moment in the Grand Prix.
Yes, Jensen's not quite hustling the car through there, for example, the same way that Alonso is. It's not his driving style by and large, but you have to. He's 27 seconds behind Michael Schumacher, and again, he's got some nasty-looking graining on his right front. That'll be probably from a locked brake somewhere with a little bit of damage on the surface. But Button and Trulli 1.4 adrift, with the fast Ferrari of Barrichello just a further second behind. And the 2 McLaren 6th and 7th are going to be racing each other anytime soon.
Important day also in the Constructors' Championship here, the battle for 2nd place behind Ferrari. At the moment, the Renault team has 66 World Championship points, and BAR Honda have 58, so 8 the margin. And at the moment, with Alonso in 2nd place and Trulli 3rd, Button 4th and Sato out of the Grand Prix, Renault certainly look as though they're going to extend their points advantage in 2nd. It's a really terrific battle. And well, Jeff Willis, the technical director of BAR, joins Louise now down in the pit lane. Obviously, Louise, it's pretty tense times in the BAR versus Renault battle.
It is, as you can imagine, James. Everybody down here in the garage keeping a very, very close eye on what's going on. We've been watching Jensen. He's been tucked up behind Jarno Trulli for much of this race. How are you going to get him past? Will you be able to do it on the track, or is it going to be down to pit stops?
It's very difficult. I think we're obviously looking at the strategy to find a solution. We are working on it very hard at the moment.
Any concerns about reliability? Once again, we've seen Sato go out. Everything clear with Jensen?
There wasn't a lot of notice of the problem with Sato. He noticed immediately after the pit stop that the engine didn't feel right. There's no clues that we've got any problems to worry about with Jensen, but obviously it's a concern.
You've got a hard-charging Ferrari coming up behind you as well. Presumably that's got to come into a strategic mix.
Yes, we have to look at a lot of cars at the moment. It's all quite close out there at the moment.
Thanks, Jeff.
And we're seeing the Ferrari pit crew out underneath our window here. Clearly, who's been stopping first of those? It's Michael Pitts then. Michael Schumacher Pitts. So that was a short stint, James.
It was indeed a very short stint indeed. Have lost a wheel nut somewhere, have they? No, it was a good stop. It was just something to deceive the eye. 6.5 seconds. That's a fantastic stop by the Ferrari pit crew. Michael Schumacher rejoining. Hopefully this time, for his sake, he won't have too much traffic. Just a Toyota there flashing through the frame to worry him in the near future. But well, he had 4.9 seconds over Alonso, so a comfortable margin.
Well, they obviously short-fueled him. That's why he ended up just so far ahead of Alonso. He was 1.4 down before the last pit stops. Ended up 3 ahead, but we know he was doing quick lap times, but they clearly short-fueled him, James, to get race track position and to be able to control this Grand Prix. You always want to try and control it from the front, and that's what they've done with Michael Schumacher, but that was a very short stint.
It was indeed. They must be pretty confident on the tyres then, because they're sending him out for a 28-lap final stint. Or no, they can't be. 6 seconds of fuel. He must be stopping again a 4th time.
That'd be a surprise. Be amazing if he's on a 4-stopper, but if not, as you say, it's a long way to go.
Well, 28 laps. There's no way you can do that with 6 seconds worth of fuel. I mean, 6 seconds of fuel is something in the region of about 45 kilos. That will only get him 18, 19 laps.
Yep. So, very strange then. I wonder if there was a problem creeping in there, and because that is well early for Michael Schumacher to be making his 3rd stop. But Alonso leads then.
Certainly does. Michael Schumacher 11 seconds behind. You need about 18 or 19 in your pocket to be able to pit and rejoin. Alonso then on the attack once again, putting another lap on Felipe Massa, 12th place in the Sauber. There's been a good scrap between the two Saubers all afternoon. Massa started out in front. Fisichella got past him in the pit stops. Now Massa is back in front again. Really are tremendous battle for honour in that team. We don't see them very often on television, least of all battling each other, but believe me, they are really having a go, and Alonso feels that he could perhaps have led him through a little earlier. Well, Alonso, it's very interesting, Martin. We saw at the Spanish Grand Prix. You remember those people from his region of Spain, the northeast corner called Asturias, northwest corner, Asturias. They have that blue flag with the cross on it. Out on the track yesterday morning, there were thousands of people with those flags. He's obviously now got his own little equivalent of Schumi's Barmy Army that's starting to travel now. We've never seen that before in Formula One. It's Spanish fans travelling to overseas Grand Prix. It's certainly a trend that Alonso will want to encourage.
It is, but he's got to stop shaking his fist. The other driver probably can't see because he can't look over the side very well. Certainly doesn't care, otherwise he wouldn't got in the way in the first place. And for sure Alonso would then have lost a good half second under braking because he would have not attacked Adelaide in the same way he would normally do. And that half second may win in the Grand Prix this afternoon the way it's shaping up. So there is just no point. It's an understandable reaction though.
Well, it's funny enough, it's exactly half a second what it cost him. Looking at the timing computer, he was 11 seconds ahead of Michael Schumacher, and he's dropped a second from that point to the same point a lap later. So, as you say, waving your fist doesn't pay, either on the roads or on the racetracks. That then is the top 8 at the moment. Disappointing showing for Montoya. The McLarens, they'll look at this and say, well, 6th and 7th. But half a minute down on the race leaders. But nevertheless, it's good to see McLaren back in business. Both Coulthard and Raikkonen are lapping faster than Barrichello ahead of them at the moment. So it's not all over yet for them either. Coulthard just 3 seconds behind the Ferrari of Barrichello, who is currently in 5th place. We're right on board again with Alonso. Traffic coming up through the fast first curve. 165 miles an hour they carry through there.
Bit of a slow-mo replay for you to see the contact patches bouncing around. In fact, that's one of his lower flights this afternoon, isn't it? That particular one. Alonso's lead, 10.3 seconds then. We believe they've all got to pit one more time then, and the Jordan nicely out of the way. And Louise has tracked down Zolt Baumgartner.
Yeah, no points this weekend, Joel. What went wrong for you?
Yeah, I did a small mistake in turn 3, and that's why I couldn't finish the race, and I stopped in the gravel. It was so far quite good from the start. I had a very good start, and I had pushed my teammate very hard, so it was a good race and a good pace from my side. I'm a bit upset from the failure, but I hope next time I don't do this and get finish the race again.
Thanks, Joel.
Let's hope he doesn't do that in Piccadilly Circus on Tuesday afternoon. But Baumgartner then out of the race. 2 retirements still. His spin, he just told you about Sato's engine problem we saw much earlier on. 18 runners. Renault in the pits of Alonso.
Race leader Fernando Alonso comes in for this 3rd stop of the afternoon with 24 laps to go. Ted's down there. How much fuel are they putting in, Ted?
Well, this will give it away. Let's see. The clock is going. Pat Simmons, Renault's engineering chief, has been doing his calculations. Now that looks like that's 8 seconds. He does not have to stop again. They're in with a really good chance here, guys.
He doesn't. Michael Schumacher was 8.7 behind at the time when he came in, so he's comfortably going to retake the lead. And Schumacher will have approximately 9 or 10 seconds in his pocket then, but he's got to make enough of an advantage to be able to pit again to make his 4th, I believe, stop of the afternoon. It's certainly not all over yet, Martin.
No, it's not. I wonder if that was totally intentional, such a short 13-lap stint between stops. It did give him track position. He was pulling some stunning lap times. I wonder if that was totally intentional, whether they didn't get quite enough fuel in at one of the stops, something like that. But Michael Schumacher got the drive of his life then if he wants to win this one this afternoon. If we're right, he's got to come in again. And if we're not right, I don't understand how they've got enough fuel in it.
Well, absolutely right. He stopped on lap 42, put 6.5 seconds worth of fuel into the car, which is about 17 laps worth. So that brings him in towards the end of the 50s. So very rough maths, as you can imagine. I haven't got Rolf Braun's calculators there, but roughly speaking, he's got about 13 laps to make 10 seconds. That's the challenge in front of Michael Schumacher, with Alonso having just made a stop. Schumacher has been in and out, he's been 5 laps now out on these tyres, and he's lapping in the high 1 minute 15. So we'll be watching the lap times like a hawk, watching to see what Alonso can do. What's the margin at the moment then, as Alonso goes across the start-finish line? 11.5 seconds.
Yeah, it'll be a very short stop for Michael as well. It's a short pit lane. Not particularly fast pit straight, so the penalty of stopping here is not particularly high. It'll be his 4th one of the afternoon. Now that's doable, isn't it? But it's going to be nip and tuck. He's going to need some great laps. But Alonso has got to absolutely max max out every braking zone, get past every back marker effortlessly if he wants to win the Grand Prix.
Certainly has. He's 11.5 seconds behind. Let's not lose sight of the other battles on the racetrack. Trulli is third, still only just a second ahead of Jenson Button. He'll be sick of staring at the back of that Renault, as he has all weekend, all race I should say. Button fourth then, Barrichello fifth, unable to do anything about the two cars in front of him. They're all on a similar sort of pace, which is not the pace of Schumacher and Alonso, who've been a league of their own here this afternoon. And Coulthard sixth, Raikkonen seventh. Raikkonen was closing quite quickly, Martin, on David Coulthard, but no longer. They seem to have settled down now, those two. Raikkonen having made his third stop of the afternoon, Coulthard yet to make his. We'll see how that works out between the two McLaren drivers. And then Montoya 8th, Webber 9th, going strongly, just outside the points for Jaguar, but very, very consistent on his lap times. Marc Genet, though, in the second of the Williams, is not in the points. He's down in 10th place, and I think he'll be a bit disappointed with that on his 2004 debut for Williams.
Jordan clearing the way easily there for Michael Schumacher down at Adelaide Hairpin. Coulthard for his third stop. Let's see if that nozzle comes out. Well, it does indeed. No problems at all then for David Coulthard. Should keep him ahead of Kimi Raikkonen. But Michael Schumacher made 0.7 of a second on Alonso last time around. That sort of pace is just about the margin you were talking about, James.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Now 12.2 the gap. And, well, he needs about 18 or so still got to find another 6 seconds. But if Alonso can respond and just peg that gap, just hold it for the next 8 or 9 laps, he might just have a chance. Has he got it in him? Has the car got it in him? Or is Michael Schumacher going to prove just too strong on the afternoon?
We're expecting Trulli and Button in on this lap too. They're currently third and fourth, just 1.5 seconds apart. Button's going to be fed up with this sight of the rear wing of Jarno Trulli's Renault by the end of the afternoon. I wonder if they can do anything about it in the pit stop. Trulli pits and Button carries on.
Button up into third then, because Trulli has come into the pits. Mechanics go to work. Fueling him to the end of the Grand Prix. That was his third stop. On board then with the new third place man, Jenson Button, chasing his 7th podium of the 2004 season, giving that Honda maximum bananas down the main straight. Almost 200 miles an hour they get hit before they get on the brakes for that Adelaide hairpin. You can see behind the BAR there is Rubens Barrichello, closer than he has been for some time.
And the BAR team, strangely enough, have gone back into the garage. Whether they were playing tactics with Renault, I don't know. Williams are coming out, but Barrichello is now just a few tenths behind Jenson Button. You'll see him in the background there. So Button under pressure too. So he's looking both ways down the track at the moment. He's hopefully trying to get past Jarno Trulli's Renault, but Barrichello, we know, he's got a very fast car underneath him. They're both lapping. Let's see, 1 minute 16.3. Good pace.
Well, Button pitted a lap earlier than Trulli last time round, but he put more fuel in. So this is a longer stint for Jenson Button. Is he making it work? That was a cracking lap. His fastest lap of the Grand Prix so far in the high 1 minute 15s. Just what he needed, Martin.
And he was hustling at that time, wasn't he, through the final chicane? He took off. So Jenson, knowing this is a pivotal moment, Trulli's made his stop, but Barrichello's threatening him, and somehow he's got to pull out some stellar laps. Oh no, he's got downshift, back end got away from him slightly. That'll cost him half second. Montoya pits for the third time too. He was in 6th place, but Button then really on the ragged edge, trying to squeeze a few more tenths out of this BAR Honda.
Certainly is. Well, we saw Coulthard coming out of the pits just before. He did rejoin in front of Raikkonen, but behind Mark Webber. However, the Jaguar has only stopped twice this afternoon, so I don't know whether he has to stop again. I would imagine he does, with 20 laps still to go here. So that will drop Mark Webber out of the points, unless he's on some sort of extraordinary strategy. Juan Montoya has made his third stop of the afternoon as well. As we look at Jenson Button, where's he going to... BAR are in the pit lane. The Ferrari of Barrichello dives in. Here you can see the mechanics coming out now. Barrichello in then.
Well, Barrichello's in. It looks like Button's tyres are already out of the blankets. So a good stop there for Ferrari. About the right sort of time you'd expect on a 3-stop afternoon. But I wonder why Button's tyres are out of the blankets so early. He's got another 70 seconds before he pits after he goes past the start-finish line. I wonder, they couldn't have been expecting him in. They weren't fully ready for him. Now they are, of course. He's got about a half a lap to do as he heads down to the just 2/3 of a lap to do, actually.
So very important pit stop coming up for Button then. 2 things to watch out for as Webber makes his 3rd stop of the afternoon, which drops him out of the points again. 2 things to watch out for. He was battling Trulli and he was battling Barrichello. If he's been too slow, he'll be passed by Barrichello. If he's been fast enough, he'll pass Jarno Trulli. Quite a lot riding on this stop, really. This is for 3rd place in the Grand Prix. The final podium position.
He did a 15.9, as you pointed out, James, and a 16.1, so his pace has been good. But, will he pit this time? The team have sort of kind of been expecting him for a while, but he will go straight on. Sure, he's got to attack that speed line, and Ted is down there.
This will be very, very close with Jarno Trulli. The tyres have been out of the blankets, as you say, for ages, almost a lap. The Michelin tyres are almost bald. There are no problems with getting the fuel hose on at least. The stop going well so far. He rides the limiter and he's away. Good. Oh no, late going away. Decent stop though for Jensen.
Well, yeah, but he lost about a second there, didn't he? Surely. Where are Trulli? Where is Barrichello? Out on the racetrack, we can't see from this camera angle. There's Trulli, so he's not managed to pass Trulli, but can he use these new tyres now when they're at their most effective? There's Barrichello right behind him, the 3 of them side by side. Barrichello goes to make the pass on Button. Can he make it stick? Button not able to get up to speed fast enough to attack Trulli, and Rubens Barrichello takes that 4th position away from Button, but he's fighting back on the outside. No, he can't make it stick. And look how close he came to glory, and look where he ended up. He could have been 3rd, he's now 5th.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he'd have been side by side with Trulli into Estoril corner. But look, he tries to hang on round the outside. But all you're going to do there is lose your right front wheel on that one. The car in front is always going to squeeze you off the racetrack. Jensen Button then now sadly not even able to steer directly at the rear wing of Jarno Trulli. So a very costly moment there for Button.
Car 19 under investigation. Giorgio Pantano. No, it's not. Beg your pardon. Yes, it is. Giorgio Pantano in the Jordan under investigation. Not quite sure what that's about. Quite often that means speeding in a pit lane in Formula 1. We'll find out soon. Well, Martin, that stuttery restart from the pit stop certainly cost Jensen Button there, didn't he? He lost a drive-through time penalty, yes, for speeding in the pit lane for Pantano. Look at him though, he's coming around to try and attack Rubens Barrichello. Same place where Barrichello got him. There is a straight line speed advantage both these cars have over the Renault we're looking back from now. That of Jarno Trulli, and Button unable to use that 1st lap bite of the tyres to gain track position. But how much did that cost him, that slow getaway from the pit stop?
That was a second, wasn't it? Something like that, but it would have made the difference, certainly with Barrichello. And maybe he would have been in the slipstream of Trulli rather than being under pressure. So it cost him very dearly. Michael Schumacher's got himself on track while all that's been going on with a 1:15.5 and then a 1:15.9. So he has a 16.4 second lead. It's looking close, but it's looking good for Michael Schumacher.
14 laps to go at Magny-Cours in France. That's your race leader, Michael Schumacher. His task was to find about 8 or 9 seconds over Alonso during this stint. He looks like he's done it. The last few laps have been kind to Michael Schumacher and rather unkind to Fernando Alonso. There's Ross Brawn on the right, the Ferrari technical director and chief strategist. He's the one that sent Michael Schumacher out on the quest, we believe, of stopping 4 times here this afternoon. It took half the race before Alonso gave up the lead to Michael Schumacher. Schumacher took it by short fueling one of his stops, but he's ahead now of Alonso, and Trulli is in 3rd place. Barrichello is in 4th. Button is in 5th, having lost the chance of taking the final podium position, the 3rd podium position away from Jarno Trulli. Button was slow away from his 3rd pit stop, a stuttering exit he made from his pit box. He could have taken 3rd from Trulli, but was unable to do so, and Barrichello swallowed him up on the back straight on Button's outlap. So Button dropping then down to 5th place with the 2 McLarens of Coulthard and Raikkonen right behind. And Ted has some news for us in the pits.
James, there are a few bits of key information that explain why Michael has done a 4-stop. First of all, he's running a softer tyre than Rubens Barrichello, the softer Bridgestone, and he's also softened up the rear suspension. I noticed on the grid that the torsion bar, his rear torsion bar, was sticking out the back of the bodywork, and a longer torsion bar, Martin, as you know, indicates a softer rear, so that would have made the tyres wear out more. And of course, it's a very short pit lane with a short pit entry. And as I say that, Ferrari are coming out for Michael's 4th and final stop. It's looking good.
That's an urgent decision they've just made, isn't it? They bolted out of their seats, so understandably, because Michael Schumacher's already at the Imola chicane, so just 2 corners to go before the pit lane, and quite clearly they've decided with a 21.7 second advantage, and he's already another half second up on this lap too over Alonso, and that's why they've done it, James. Traffic ahead of them. They've decided, that's why the mechanics bolted so quickly, so Michael doesn't lose time between the Williams and the Jordan.
Well, certainly Alonso has lost time in traffic, and that's what's pretty much finished off his challenge. 21 seconds, so any kind of mistake here will cost him the win, but Ferrari don't make too many mistakes in pit stops, do they? Michael doesn't make too many mistakes. The Ferrari team in general are pretty much like a clockwork operation, and Michael Schumacher should have about 4 or 5 seconds in his pocket. Alonso crosses the line now, and so he's got the length of the pit straight and part of the first corner between himself and Fernando Alonso. That is one of the Jaguars, and Alonso was behind him on the racetrack. Schumacher retains the lead. The 4-stop strategy of Ross Brawn would appear to have worked here this afternoon. The aggressive driving of Michael Schumacher has done the rest, and Ross will no doubt be peeling his mid-race banana fairly soon. Bit of brain food. But as far as he's concerned, his work is done for the afternoon. It's now just up to his driver to bring the car home.
Well, you have to say they've played it nicely, haven't they? The 4-stopper was good, got him out of the dirty air of Alonso to enable him to put in those great lap times. And they always obviously felt comfortable, and we've seen it with our Meet the Team this weekend, how the comfort level between Ross and Michael and the trust they all have together. Ross knows that if he challenges Michael to go and find 10 seconds, he'll do it.
Absolutely right. Schumacher will have been feeding information to him all the time about what the tyres were doing. Obviously made a decision to go for the 4 stops as a result of what they felt the tyres were doing relative to the Michelins, how the car was handling, and Schumacher constantly feeding information back via the radio to Brawn, who keeps him informed as well. It's really is very much a dialogue throughout the Grand Prix, and it culminates in strategies like this.
I think it worked for the first time for them together back in '98 in Hungary, where I think that was the first time we really saw Michael blitzing these laps and taking Grand Prix that he perhaps didn't look like he was going to win.
Yeah, they certainly, well, I mean, you can never count Ferrari out, least of all in a season like this, but certainly they do seem to have grabbed a victory here today. The Renault team and Alonso looking pretty comfortable in the lead for the first half of the Grand Prix almost. 32 laps the Renault led for, barring his pit stop, but nevertheless, very smart thinking by Ferrari, and on lap 60, he has hit the front pretty much an appropriate number today, because if he can keep going for the final laps, this will be Michael Schumacher's 60th Grand Prix victory in a Ferrari, more than 3 times as many as the next man, Niki Lauda.
I don't want to see any more of him, though, until he goes over the line, because there's some great scraps out there. Truly, half-second ahead of Barrichello, who's 4/10 ahead of Jenson Button. Coulthard now 6th, just 9/10 ahead of Kimi Räikkönen. So 3rd through 7th, all in pretty close formation, albeit in 2 groups.
Well, the French enjoying their moment. They've got a French director of the Ferrari team, Jean Todt, and obviously the Renault team is battling with them here today, Flavio Briatore. That's why we keep seeing the two in a gladiatorial kind of pose. But as Martin says, some fantastic action going on now. 10 laps to go, and Button, I would imagine, after a frustrating afternoon of being tucked up behind Trulli, now being tucked up behind Barrichello as well. The 3 of them separated by only 1 second on the road, and I would imagine there's a chance that one of them is going to try something here this afternoon before this race is over. Another man who might try something, Kimi Räikkönen, currently 7th, but really monstering the back of David Coulthard. He doesn't want to finish behind Coulthard on the race debut of this new McLaren, does he? That's the last thing he needs. Finally, we get to see this battle, and this is shaping up nicely. The 3 of them coming very much closer together, and with 10 to go here in Magny-Cours, this is shaping up to being a pretty grandstand finish for the final podium slot. Eight laps to go in the French Grand Prix. It's been a really enjoyable afternoon's racing, I have to say. It's been uncertain, certainly along a lot of the way. Michael Schumacher has done 4 stops here this afternoon. It's what's got him ahead of Fernando Alonso, who led the first 32 laps of the Grand Prix from pole position. Tremendous scrap between them. Schumacher getting ahead after the second round of pit stops, but it was a surprise to everybody when he made the additional stop. Rubens Barrichello critically got in front of Jenson Button in the BAR driver's 3rd pit stop. Button has been battling all afternoon with Jarno Trulli, and recently with Barrichello as well. This is the scrap we're looking at the moment. It's the battle with Trulli in front. You can see there, we're on board with Rubens Barrichello. So Trulli 3rd, Barrichello 4th, Button in 5th place, and shaping up nicely with 7 to go here. The first tranche of a great day of sport here on ITV1. Don't forget, tonight at 7 o'clock, you can see the Euro 2004 soccer finals. Portugal, the conquerors of England in the quarterfinals, hearts breaking all over the country when that happened. Well, it's their chance to go for glory tonight against Greece in Porto, of course. Join Des Lynam and the crew for that. But we've still got a lot of racing here to go in the last 7 laps at Magny-Cours.
Yes, interestingly too, the 2 McLarens are cruising up to the back of this little trio. So it'll be a 5-man scrap right near the very end. They haven't got enough laps left to do anything about it. But Barrichello looking the man most likely to change the current running order. But he's got the horrible situation of the super fast Estoril corner, turn 3. With the dirty air coming off that rear wing, you can see in front of you of the Renault that's destabilising his car when he most needs that balance and grip. And even with the extra straight line speed, then you're too far behind by the time you get on to the straight. Ted is down in the pits again.
Yeah, down at Ferrari with Luca Coliani again. Luca, 4 stops was quite risky, but it's worked out brilliantly, hasn't it?
Yeah. During the first stint, we realized that it would have been very difficult to catch Alonso being on the same strategy. So we decided to switch to a very aggressive one with 4 stops. And you can do it only here where the pit lane is very short. And also I have to say you can do it only when you have a driver like Michael capable to drive so fast like in qualifying. This race is reminding me Budapest 98, I think, when Michael won with 3 stops in that circuit.
Of course, so another very daring switch, mid-race switch by Ross Brawn.
Yeah, it was a very risky movement. We want to win, and this shows that Ferrari always want to win, even though we are in a very good position in the championships. We always want to win. We always want to push, and it seems that this is going to be a reward for us.
What can Rubens do in the car, very briefly, to try and get Trulli?
Yeah, just try and push as much as he can.
Thank you, Luca.
I tell you something, Martin, at the end of this Grand Prix, I expect Michael Schumacher, he's always happy when he wins a race. If he does follow through here and do the last 5 laps and win this Grand Prix, I expect him to be absolutely ecstatic, because this is the kind of challenge he really loves, isn't it? When Ross Brawn says to him, I need you to find me 8 or 9 seconds in 10 laps or something, and he just goes out and does it. 4 stops. I mean, as Luca Coliani said, there aren't many drivers that could have pulled off what Schumacher's done today.
Yeah, they seem quite pleased with him, don't they? I suspect they'll put him in the car for Silverstone next week as well. But will they put Genet in the Williams? I think he's expecting a couple of races. How do you think he's done today? He's down in 10th. Interesting little situation there. Montoya 8th, who's leaving Williams. Webber 9th, who we think is going to Williams. And Genet, who's hoping to be Webber's teammate, amongst many others, is 10. But a lot of scrapping going on there, and we're coming into the silly zone anytime soon for some of those contracts.
Well, we are indeed. They've all done a similar strategy here this afternoon of 3 stops. Genet started, Montoya started 6th on the grid. Genet was 8th, and Webber was 12th in a Jaguar. Now, the Williams have come here with a lot of updated parts, new floor, new this, that, and the other aerodynamically on the car. A lot of effort gone in by a lot of people back in Didcot to make this car go faster, make it more competitive. The Williams in the Montoya car is 44 seconds behind the race leader Michael Schumacher, and he's got 2 McLarens in front of him, 1 BAR, 2 Ferraris and 2 Renaults. It's not at all what Williams would have wanted from this weekend, with new upgraded parts, virtually a new car in fact, certainly a lot of aero modifications. To answer your question, I mean, absolutely. Genet is 17 seconds behind Montoya on the road, which is not so bad, I guess, for a guy who's not done a lot of racing this year, but it's still 17 seconds. But the crucial thing, as you say, is he's being beaten by a Jaguar.
Yeah, and we've seen Montoya off the road a few times as well, but nevertheless, Genet may have a specific problem. We'll find out, no doubt, in some of the post-race stuff. But Barrichello then locked in there behind Trulli. Trulli's mirrors have been fairly heavily used today, haven't they? So where's he going to do it? Is he going to do it? There's no way now until very near the end of the lap, and even then it'd have to be brave stuff. He's somehow got to get behind him through turn 3 at Estoril. That's his only chance.
Well, you'd have to say, just judging by what you call the body language of the car, he does look like he wants to try it, doesn't he, Rubens Barrichello? You remember Silverstone, almost 12 months ago now. We'll be there next week, won't we, for the British Grand Prix? How good was Rubens Barrichello on that day, passing everybody, left, right, over the top. Went round Kimi Räikkönen at Bridge Corner, I'll never forget that, and he looks like he wants to have a go today.
This could be an important lap for Jarno Trulli. He's going to get slowed down in the super high speed stuff by the Sauber of Massa, and is he going to be close enough to him No, he's not. Actually, Massa's far enough down the road. It's not going to compromise his exit speed. I wonder if it might just compromise Trulli off the corner and give Barrichello a better run. Look, we're going to edge up. You're with Barrichello looking at Jarno Trulli, and Trulli certainly not super fast at that point. He's got in very early into the corner, so Barrichello will try and duck round underneath him, but wasn't quite close enough. And the Sauber doing a good job of getting out of the way.
Yeah, Fisichella didn't want any part of that. Certainly any accusations after the race that he affected the battle for the final podium position. He got right out of it, didn't he, in the hairpin. And these three absolutely together now with just 2 laps to go here in Magny-Cours. Michael Schumacher 10 seconds clear of Alonso in front. 24 seconds behind is the second Renault of Jarno Trulli. So comprehensive beating today by Alonso on Trulli as Barrichello runs a little bit wide there.
Where's Jenson Button? Can he get a look up the inside? Was he close enough? No, sadly he wasn't, as Rubens really, I think, got a little bit caught out by how hard Jarno Trulli braked up there at Chateau d'Eau. The McLaren's now just 3 seconds behind this little group. You'll see him flashing around in the background.
I reckon McLaren will be pretty pleased with this, you know. They might only be 6th and 7th, but they've been on the pace of Ferrari, BAR and Renault in front of them, which by McLaren standards is nothing to shout about, but by their standards of their 2004 season is definitely a significant improvement. So hats off to everyone at Woking that seems to have made some gains here, and hopefully a strong end to the season for the McLaren team. But we've got a strong end to the Grand Prix to look forward to here, because Barrichello looks to me like he really wants to have a go at Jarno Trulli.
Yeah, Trulli, I think, is feeling a bit under pressure now. Rubens has got to think this one through somehow, I think, and not have a scrappy half attempt at it, because he's certainly got, you see all those little things, you're just going to lose 20 metres and it puts you back for half a lap, and he's got to be perfect, and then he's going to get a slingshot, I think, somehow in one of... Oh, he's got one more chance now, hasn't he, down into the hairpin. And I think he blew it just there.
So both Renaults have challenged both Ferraris. Michael Schumacher has got the upper hand over Alonso, but Barrichello has not got the upper hand over Trulli in the other Renault-Ferrari battle. That's the story at the moment as we work the final lap, as Michael Schumacher is going to become a 7-time winner of the French Grand Prix. Another magnificent 7 for him to go with his achievement in Canada. And, well, what a day it's been for Michael Schumacher. What a challenge he was set by Ross Brawn. Go out there and find me some stunning laps, because I want you to make one more pit stop than everybody else here this afternoon. He and Alonso have been in a league of their own, the two of them. And Schumacher backing off, the air horns going. You can hear the Ferrari mechanics are all out on the wall, ready to salute home their hero. Michael Schumacher just got a couple of corners to go. He comes down the hill from Chateau d'Eau. He's done it so many times before. He clinched a world title here back in 2002 in record time. And now he's going to win his 7th French Grand Prix. What a tremendous victory for Michael Schumacher and the whole of the Ferrari team. Ross Brawn on the strategy. What a great win, because this was not an easy one. This one, Alonso and Renault really challenged them, led the first 32 laps of the Grand Prix. Alonso finishes in 2nd place. Renault are happy because with 2nd and 3rd places, that gives them a little bit more of a cushion over BAR in the Constructors' Show. Oh, what am I talking about? In the final corner, Barrichello is going to get the final podium position. Well, finally the director cut to it. And he nicked it off him in the final, and he's very pleased with himself. And both Ferraris now have done both of the Renaults.
How did Trulli let that happen? It was in 2 corners from home. We've got to see that. And now you should see the Ferrari mechanics on the field. They've just worked. They thought they were 1st and 4th. Now they're 1st and 3rd. 2 drivers on the podium. And it's all going off down there. It's right underneath our window. And Barrichello, with last of the late breakers, snatching a podium.
Absolutely fantastic stuff. Michael Schumacher the winner here then. The podium coming up shortly.